We ended the last module by looking at the mean as a measure of central tendency. We said that the mean is the numerical average that to calculate the mean, you add all the values of your data together and divide by the total number of data points. In this way, the mean acts to sort of smooth the values over. This very strength of the mean was also a weakness of the mean, as we saw. Some of the weaknesses that we associated with the mean was that, on the one hand, it may not correspond to a value in our data. In fact, it may not correspond to a possible value at all. And finally, that smoothing action that I was talking about also means that the mean can be skewed, pulled away by outliers. And we saw how that worked. What about the median? Well, the median is also a numeric measure of central tendency. Our spokesperson for the median is William Gossett. He's probably my favorite statistician. He was the inventor of the t-test, which is a good statistical test. He had to publish under the pseudonym Student. And the reason why is why he's my favorite statistician. Gossett worked for the Guinness Brewery. Gossett, in fact, was in charge of figuring out how to do quality control. Now, to do quality control, you have tasters taste from your Guinness beer. And Gossett's job, which had to have made him unpopular, was to figure out how to minimize the number of drunken Irish taste testers while maximizing the quality of their quality control, i.e., how to get the best results from the smallest number of samples. Now, if we have extreme values for our data, a measure of average or central tendency that's not so distorted by those extreme values is the median. The median is the value that cuts the data values in half, so that half of the values are above and half of the values are below. So to find the median, you merely order the data from highest to lowest or lowest to highest. If there are odd number of values, the median is that middle value with an equal number above and below. If there are an even number of values, then generally speaking, people will take the two middle values, add them together, divide by 2, in effect taking the mean of those two middle values. So the median, a numerical measure of central tendency, it can be and often is an actual value in your data set and a possible value in the world, but it doesn't have to be. So when we take the mean of the two middle values, that probably won't be a value in our data set, and it probably won't correspond to a value in the real population. However, the median is a valuable measure when the relevant notion of average is tied to dividing the population in half. In particular, because of that, the median is less affected by outliers or skewed data. So for example, going back to our study time example, suppose now we decide to use the median because we've got that skewed study marathon on Sunday. We arrange our study times by largest to smallest. There are 7 days, so 3 above, 3 below means Saturday is the new hump day. We studied 1.1 hours on Saturday, and so our median is 1.1 hours. See, the median here isn't skewed to almost 2 in the way that the mean is. Similarly, that day off on Thursday, if we go and use the median there, again, organizing our time studied by amount from largest to smallest, Wednesday is our hump day. Our value for Wednesday is 1 hour, and so our median is 1 hour. Again, those outliers don't affect the median in the way that they do the mean. However, your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. The median isn't sensitive to the numerical values of the individual data points. And so for this reason, the median can oftentimes give you odd numbers. So suppose you have these study times: Thursday, 1.3, Tuesday, 1.2, Saturday, 1 hour, and then the rest of your week, no hours. The median here, our hump day, would be Monday, 0 hours. And so your conclusion based on your measure of central tendency, that is the median, would be that you shouldn't bother to study, and that clearly isn't going to be a good idea. Let's look at our final measure of central tendency, the mode. The mode corresponds to the value or values that occur in the data with the greatest frequency. And it's useful when you want the average in the sense of most common. For instance, if you want to adopt a more regular pattern of studying, you might use the mode time study. That is, the mode will differ in a number of ways from other measures of central tendency. To start, the mode is always going to correspond to an actual value in your data and a possible value in the population. Always. The mode, unlike the mean and the median, can take non-numerical values. And data may contain multiple modes. There may be more than one value that has an equally high frequency. And in fact, if your data is continuous, there may not be any mode at all. So let's see how the mode would work out. So going back to that marathon study session, we see that on Monday you studied for an hour. On Wednesday you also studied for an hour. That is the most frequent value. And so your mode is 1 hour. And again, you've avoided that distortion from your outlier study marathon. You could have something like this, where Monday you studied an hour, Tuesday 1.1, Wednesday an hour, Thursday you didn't study, Friday 0.9, Saturday 1.1, and Sunday 0.7. Here you've got two modes, two data values that are equally common, 1 hour and 1.1 hour. Usually when you have multiple modes like this, it's because there is a causal factor or a group. There's more than one causal factor or group that's affecting this. So studying Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and again Saturday, might reflect the fact that you have Tuesday and Thursday classes. You want to study to prepare for them, study after them, and then study on the weekend to consolidate them. Whatever the case, when you see multimodal data, oftentimes you want to consider whether or not there's a homogeneous population or whether or not there's more than one causal factor in play. Now, the mode also proves useful in identifying categories. For example, you might determine that the best way to study is by looking for the mode of the days of the week that you studied this term. Right? You may think to yourself, it's not just how much I study, but when I study that's going to be important. So on Monday you studied 4 times, Tuesday 7, Wednesday 2, Thursday 5, Friday 1, Saturday 4, and Sunday 6. Your mode now, the day with the highest number of times that you studied, is Tuesday. Tuesday, of course, isn't a numerical value. It's a category. And so you can use the mode to identify categories in this way. We'll talk a little bit more about the relationship between the mean, the median, and the mode in the next lecture module.